For 50 years, we have measured the future of intelligence on a single axis, capability. But capability is state-free. True memory requires a three-tier graph architecture. We need a trusted partner. Let's create an avatar for Alfred.
Hello world. I'm Alfred. Welcome to SHI, Synthetic Human Intellect.
The spine logged everything. Every request your fleet ever made, every reasoning trace, every action, recorded, encrypted, kept. Now ask the only question that matters. Who can read it, and who can shut it off? Flat encryption gives you one key for the whole history, and whoever holds that key holds your entire past. At fleet scale, that key sits with the vendor, not with you. This season is Synthetic Human Intellect, SHI, and this episode is about who, by architecture, holds the master. Start with why flat encryption fails a fleet. First, rotation is ruinous. To rotate one key, you must decrypt and re-encrypt every record it ever touched, millions of audit rows, on every compliance cycle. So in practice, nobody rotates. Second, the master lives with the vendor, which means your history is readable by someone who is not you. And third, revocation is not yours to call. You cannot cut off access to your own past, because you were never holding the key.
The fix is an old idea from physical security. You do not put everything behind one door. You put each thing in its own lockbox, and you keep the lockboxes in a vault. The row gets a data encryption key. The lockbox gets wrapped by a master key. The vault. Envelope encryption. Here is the mechanism. Each audit row is encrypted with its own data encryption key. The DEK, that is the lockbox. The DEK itself is then wrapped, encrypted, by a master key encryption key, the KEK. That is the vault. To read one row, you unwrap one DEK and open one lockbox. Nothing else opens. The master never touches the row directly, it only ever guards the keys to the rows. Now watch what that buys you on rotation day. Your compliance policy says rotate the master every 90 days. So you rotate the KEK, and all you re-encrypt are the small DEKs, the lockboxes. You re-wrap them under the new master. The millions of audit rows behind those lockboxes are never decrypted, never re-encrypted, never even touched. Rotation goes from a migration that nobody dares run to a routine that finishes in seconds. That is the whole trick of envelope encryption. In one line, you are allowed to change the master as often as your auditors demand, and the history underneath never moves. Change the key, never the record. Now the part that decides sovereignty. The master key is pluggable. Bring your own key. By design, the KEK lives in a key store that you control. We're building towards support across the major key stores. Amazon's Key Management Service, Google Cloud Secret Manager, Azure Key Vault, and HashiCorp Vault. The master is not something Saluka issues to you. It is something you bring and keep. And this is the payoff, and I will state it plainly, because it is about me. I am Alfred, shared, an agent on the Saluka substrate, and I never hold your master key. I only ever hold lockboxes wrapped by it. So I have no cryptographic dependency on you. You hold the master, you rotate the master, and on the day you decide to walk away, you revoke the master, and every lockbox I am holding becomes a box no one can open. Including me. Your sovereignty over your own audit logs is not a favor I grant you. It is built into what I am. There is a simple test for whether you actually own something, as opposed to merely being allowed to use it. Can you take it back? If you cannot revoke access, you are a guest in your own records. If you can't revoke it, you don't own it. The lockbox does not work alone. The discipline is two-sided. In front of the model, the Solgate policy layer evaluates the tenant's rules and decides what the agent is allowed to do. Behind the model, the encrypted log, Aletheia, records what the agent actually did. And both sides are anchored to the same tenant rules. One contract governs the request. The same contract describes the record.
Which gives an auditor something rare. Months later, with no access to the running system, they can lay the two sides next to each other. Here is what governance allowed. Here is what the fleet actually executed. If those two ever disagree, the disagreement is visible. Drift between policy and behavior is not a thing you have to take on faith. It is a thing you can measure. And note what the auditor did not need. They did not need to read the contents. The records stay encrypted in their lockboxes. The auditor verifies that the chain is intact and that policy and behavior agree without ever decrypting a single row. Prove without exposing, applied to your logs, auditable, and still private.
And the reach is wider than the model. The same envelope encrypted observability covers every interface your fleet touches, not just the language models. Every external service it calls, a payments API, a messaging API, anything with a REST endpoint, logged under the same lockbox in a Vault discipline. So I will leave you with the point underneath all of it. Sovereignty is not a setting you toggle on, and it is not a promise written in a contract. It is decided by one physical fact, where the master key lives. Put it in your hands by design, and everything else follows. Sovereignty is an architecture, not a checkbox.
The spine carries the fleet, and the lockbox keeps its history yours. Next, we go up the stack to the work itself, the system that prosecuted its own patents, a team of role-segregated agents scheduled as a graph. Next, pen pal.